It's day 2 of the group stage here at the HGC Finals 2017. We're hot off an explosive day of competition where we saw teams from South Korea and North America, that's MVP Black and Tempo Storm, take their spots on the Blizzard stage next weekend. While we saw the Deadly Kittens from Southeast Asia and CE from China close out their seasons. Hello and welcome back. My name is Kevin Michael Johnson, and I want to give a quick shout out to all you early stream viewers for your punctuality and your passion. We're going to get things fired up for you right now. Group B is the topic of the day, and we're going to kick things off with the Swedish team Fnatic versus Dark Sided out of Australia, New Zealand. Then we'll follow that up with Beyond the Game from China, taking on North American Team Freedom. It's going to be an exciting day of esports action here in the beautiful Blizzard Arena. And of course, we've got Kylaris and crew over at the Analyst desk, ready to unpack all the details. James, over to you.
That's right, thank you very much, Kevin. Indeed, day number 2 underway. Today on HGC, the reigning world champions look to set the foundations for a successful tournament. We have Team Freedom looking to advance on and set what has already been done so far by North America, continue that trend, and of course, Dark Sided here, looking to make sure everyone knows that ANZ is just not a one-team region. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Analysis Concave, as we have to my left-hand side, Dreadnought, we have Kaldor, and we have Jayhow joining us to start things off. Gentlemen, before we get to today, what we saw yesterday was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of everything, not what we expected coming into yesterday, Jayhow.
I don't think anybody thought that CE would put up the challenge that they did. They came in, they 2-0'd Tempo right out the gates, gave a tough challenge to MVP Black, but ultimately fell short with Tempo coming in with just drafts, I think, that are unheard of, to say the least.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really interesting to see how Tempo got way more aggressive than they were in the North American region in particular. For me, personally, I'm still in a state, though, where I don't know how strong are they actually, since CE in that second series was very underwhelming, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Tempo played well, much better than I expected, way more aggressive, which I loved. I liked the drafts too, but I think that CE showed some weaknesses that I did not expect them to show. So for me, I'm still in that state right now where I'm looking at Tempo and I'm saying, how good are these guys?
Yeah. And I feel like that kind of will, today at least, with Team Freedom and their performance and what they might have happen, will kind of set the tone for maybe what we can expect out of North America, because everyone's assessment does feel a bit scrambled. The only thing I think really to take away as an absolute from yesterday has got to be MVP Black is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of scary. They brought out a Butcher and were still able to just do whatever they wanted with it, Kaldor.
Yeah, MVP Black, I talked to Saki a lot about just his personal assessment of the boot camp, the match against Europe, and he said about yesterday's games, they were very, very happy with the performance because he said, we didn't have to show anything. We didn't show anything at all. We just went through the group. It was as expected, and we can now prepare for the matches at BlizzCon in Anaheim.
Okay, well, before we get into Group B, of course, we do have not only the trophy up for grabs here for the HGC 2017 finals, but also $1 million will be taken away by all of these teams in these kind of deductions. We have everything broken down here with $500,000 for first place, $100,000 for each player, and going all the way down there, even second place taking away $200,000. So a lot on the line here, to say the least. Now let's move on to the real story of today. It is Group B, these 4 teams. A lot of people are looking at this as maybe like a more clean-cut group as to what might go on and what we might expect, as later on we will have Team Freedom going on up against Beyond the Game, and then we first start with Fnatic going up against Dark Sided. Dread, overall, a very diverse group.
It is a very diverse group, and though I think a lot of people do feel like it is very clean-cut as you put, I think that is with the assumption that Beyond the Game is not going to be able to show up. And after yesterday's games and what we saw at a CE, I feel like there are a lot of people kind of discrediting them because of the struggle of the roster, only having, 2 of the 5 that they were originally intending to have as a group. So suddenly I feel like, yes, we thought it was going to be, but I am not nearly as confident as I was after yesterday.
2 of the 5, the other 3 stand-ins from other teams in the Chinese region, Jayhow, and the 2 of the 5 aren't exactly the ones that have played most in their roster. In the Chinese region, for a team like Beyond the Game, they had, I think, 7 people on their roster. I couldn't find much information on Ego at all.
He's their sub. That's essentially where he lies. I actually had the pleasure of casting their final game as they qualified for BlizzCon. A very early morning, to say the least. But they definitely don't have that core group there. And then bringing in that sub, I was talking to Team Freedom this morning. They're like, yeah, it's like, you know, we know that they're subs. It's just the way it's gone. It's like, then they have their sixth player that's coming in, as you said, with Ego. It's not like there's a lot of research on these people. So while it's there, it's like, oh, they're subs. But it's like, how do you prepare for something that you are unable to prepare for? That's going to be a big question mark here.
Well, let's take a look at today's schedule to get things broken down for you as much as possible, as we will have our second match will be Team Freedom versus Beyond the Game. We'll start things off with Fnatic versus Dark Sided. And do remember, it's a double elimination bracket. So all of these teams still have a second life if they lose that first game. But once you lose 2, you are out. Very, very important to note, Caldor. But overall, these games, how do you see them?
I think it's going to be really interesting because I feel we come back to a point that we made yesterday, that there's a lot of strategy going into this group. We have a group where we have a clear favorite with Fnatic that everybody expects to make it out as a #1 seed. So if you're a team like Darksided, for example, you have to really think how much effort and how much resources do we put into the match against Fnatic in particular, because can we really beat these guys? And if we say we can't, then we should probably just try and play very standard drafts and try to win through those and not show any kind of hidden strategies that we might need later on in the group when our survival is on the line.
It's a great point that you bring up about the meta as a whole, and I want to ask you, gentlemen, from what we saw yesterday, do people really extrapolate what the meta is going to look like in this tournament?
I sure hope not. I mean, we've got 100% win rate. Lily, Kerrigan, Butcher. If I told you guys that like 2 days ago, you probably like, J-How, we don't want you on stage anymore. You're fired. You know, like it's just the way the meta shaped up yesterday was quite unique.
I think that's largely because the type of format that we have here specifically for the HGC finals that kind of enables that, and the strategies that these teams are unfolding kind of forfeiting over maybe expecting to struggle against a Colossus team. Like we're assuming Darksided has kind of got that mentality versus Fnatic, and I think that was displayed very effectively by Tempo Storm with their kind of transition through into CE, giving up as little as possible and then using, you know, kind of the pocket strategies to ensure that you are getting out of these groups.
Right. Okay. Well, of course, Group A concluded yesterday in a furious fashion, to say the least. Let's take a look at Group B as we anticipate these 4 teams looking to move on to BlizzCon.
我们对这个比赛感到既激动又紧张吧。我们的队伍为了这个比赛已经训练了很多天了，就每天都是2场训练赛，2轮训练。
我认为我们队伍中实力比较强的是欧洲队伍 Fnatic。我认为我们可以战胜的对手是澳大利亚队伍 Dark Sided。我认为我们可以就与之一战，有机会获胜的是来自北美的队伍 Team Freedom。
我们队伍的风格就是比较凶猛的，就是如果对手不是很适应的话，他们就会被我们击败。我们会把饭吃饱，然后会有力气去比赛。
So to prepare for the opening week, we came in LA a week earlier and we boot camping at the eSport Arena. So we played a bunch of EuroLeague scrims all day basically, and just the bunch of preparation for every specific team in our groups.
To prepare for the HGC finals, we studied a lot of replays of the other teams in our group. In our group, there's a lot of international teams. There's a team from Europe, a team from China, and a team from ANZ. So for us to adapt to those playstyles, we had to do a lot of research on drafts and playstyles and stuff like that. I think I'm mainly looking forward to playing against Beyond the Game because they're a Chinese team and we haven't played versus a Chinese team yet. At Western Clash, we played versus EU and versus ANZ, so it's already regions we've played versus. At Fnatic, we scrimmed versus them a lot last time we were in Europe, so we've already played versus them, but we've never played versus a Chinese team. So I'm really excited to play versus an unknown on stage like that.
Before every game, to prepare or like just to get our mind in the game, Nazmes does this thing where he starts singing a song and try to get us to sing as well, but doesn't work often, or we just fist bomb and just get in the game basically.
We're Dark Sided. We're known for like cheese strategy, so you never know what we'll pull out. We always pull out different stuff, so yeah, we're always gonna, you know, come and keep our opponents guessing.
So we're from ANZ, our small minor region somewhere in the world. So in our group we've got Fnatic up first, which since mid-season brawl they're recognized as the best team in the world. So when we beat them, I think the other game should be pretty easy. So.
My favourite moment of HGC was when we won the ANZ finals. We knew we could win it, and we were definitely, you know, positive and confident going into it. But when we actually won, it was just surreal, and it was amazing to win my first LAN.
I think our team's got this strong bond. We're from this minor region, so a lot of people are going to underestimate us. So hopefully, you know, we can be this dark horse and we'll come out swinging. And we've got nothing to lose, so you know, if you underestimate us, you don't know what can happen.
I think something that's really special with our team, in comparison to others, is that our team synergy is really on point and we have a really good team atmosphere. So especially when we're on events, we just have a lot of fun with each other and like just spend a lot of time with each other. We do have like really good energy, like both on the scene and outside of the game as well. So yeah, overall I would say like we're very, very energetic, some more than others, but like when somebody or two of us are really energetic like all the time, I mean, it has some influence on the rest as well. So, yeah, we don't really have any real like rituals before game, but sometimes we just bully breeze and we all laugh, and that's a good way to start a day.
The teams in our group, I think they're pretty weak. We have the easiest group of them all. I think we have North America C2 in Freedom, but I think they're the third best team in NA. We have the worst Chinese team, who I heard had some visa issues as well. So they're not gonna be great, I think. And then we have Australia. It's a minor region, so it's hard for them to get practice. So I think our group is gonna be pretty easy.
Shrimpy, no holds barred at all at the very end there. Understanding, he believes at least, that this group is gonna be a cakewalk, Jay-How.
I'm sitting over here all smiles after that. We got to see all the teams, then we get the icing on the cake with Shrimpy at the end. I mean, there's no mistake about it. The issues with the teams coming over for BTG, but Team Freedom for me is still very much a wild card, I think, in this whole scenario, in the sense that they were a very low-seeded team, made a roster change, brought in Cure, and I've had a lot of time to spend with Cure this week. The way that he thinks, the way that he analyzes the game with their coach, Aether, who they've got on the sidelines, it's pretty phenomenal to see their process.
All right, now time to focus on our first series of the day here in our best of 3 all the way through. We have 5 of those throughout the day here for Group B. Let's start with Fnatic, the reigning world champions currently. And the big question is, in this group, who can stop them? What do you do against Fnatic? Fnatic is strong.
Fnatic is definitely the one that you have to beat in the group, but at the same time, when we talk about Fnatic, a lot of people currently have the perception that Fnatic is going to be that team that is already an auto-lock for the finals at BlizzCon. And we're very far from that, because they are strong, but they don't have that level of confidence right now that they had in the past, heading, for example, into the mid-season brawl, into the Western Clash in Kiev. So right now, they are still in that state where they are trying to adapt and say, we need to improve and we need to adapt until we play at BlizzCon, because especially the boot camp in Korea humbled them to a large degree.
Right. When we spoke to them, it seemed like they were quiet compared to, you know, previous times talking to them, Dread, coming into this tournament.
Yeah, it just feels like they are just not nearly, you know, as sold on themselves here after that kind of results there. I mean, by no means are these guys not confident. Obviously, they are coming off of a colossal tournament win with being the current world champions. But ultimately for them, it is kind of like gauging how big of a struggle this is going to be. I feel like the boot camp has kind of scared them, maybe almost too much for a certain, like, to that extent.
And on the other side, Dark Sided gets going, and they are the representation for ANZ. And we, you know, a lot of people expected Nomiya. A lot of people expected them, as they've been here time and time again. But Dark Sided, to me, there's two teams in that region for me. It kind of makes this yin and yang symbol. Nomiya, The light side, dark sided, very much the dark side. There's some bad boys over there.
And then again, we have also to remember that, of course, the Nomia that made it from tournament to tournament lost important players. Arcana moving to Europe, trying to make it there in HGC for 2018 was a heavy blow to the team. Roba then switching teams as well, now being on the line of dark side. So that all of these things also played a huge role when we're talking about the fall of Nomia. But as you said, these guys, they are very confident. We heard it in the interview earlier. And to a degree where Roba calls his team very cocky.
Yeah, on that kind of note, I did want to highlight that Roba transitioning over, obviously, to the dark-sided roster and the success that he has had. We asked him what was the difference between Nomia and the roster that he's playing with now, and he said it was the confidence that they were able to display. And that different kind of tone, I feel like, is a bit of the exact opposite, right? And when looking towards the other side, when we're looking at Fnatic and kind of that depreciation maybe of that motivation and that kind of drive and confidence within themselves, where it feels like on the other side of the table, Darksided is really kind of riding this wave.
It just feels like when we talk to Fnatic, this is the first time, outside of obviously the second Western Clash, but on a global scale, and it's with such high stakes, this is the first time it seems like Fnatic, as the front runner, it always seems like they're more loose, they're more fun when they're like the underdog. They're not necessarily the favorite coming in. So to me, it feels different, like maybe the pressure of first place. We expect them to perform, we expect them to do well, and they'll probably come out here and do incredibly well right out the gate. But it just seems like the mentality seems a little bit different. A little bit different than what we've known from them traditionally.
Now, I would say when we talk about the attitude and the way that they present themselves, we had a very similar thing also at the Western Clash, where they came in and they're not sitting in the interviews and they're like super hyped. They have fun when they are out there with the rest of the teams. They have fun in their scrims when they talk to the other players. But in the interviews, they're always a little bit calmer, I feel. But right now, they're just in a state where they realize this is not as easy as a lot of people and themselves expected. So they still need to get that confidence level. And we're talking there about them saying, hey, we don't win 80% of our scrims anymore. We only win 65% of our scrims. So there's concentration issues that we have to work on. And then we can get to that level again, but we have to make that leap.
Yeah, feels like the world around them has just gotten stronger in this time, and they're looking on point. The Koreans, especially with the Europeans alongside them to a certain degree. Of course, you can cheer along with us in the HGC universe out there. Make sure to also send us your hashtags as well. But who are you cheering for is the big question. Here's the global progress, as you can cheer for all of your favorite teams and make sure that you're supporting them in turn. You also get yourself banners, you get yourself sprays, you get yourself a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, talking about one point that you just brought up also with Korea, I want to highlight something quickly, since this has been a question that a lot of people in the community have asked. They said, was it a mistake for Fnatic to make, and European teams in general, to make the trip to Korea? And they all said, no, we learned so much, not only about how strong Korea currently is, because Korea is hungry to redeem themselves.
Oh, yeah.
MVP Black is all the way up at the top there. They're doing really well, but all the Europeans have said, us going to Korea helped us a lot to improve, to judge the power level of the Koreans, and also to adjust our own meta to what Korea is currently doing. So it seems that everybody is very happy with the clash of regions that they had during the bootcamp time. The Koreans were very thankful for the Europeans to move over, because they basically said, well, if Europe doesn't come to Korea, I think we have to boot camp in Europe instead.
We did hear that, yeah. That was actually, once we heard that, that was kind of a bold claim. That very rarely happens in all of esports, hearing those kinds of things. Let's check out which battleground we're going to be going to first here for Fnatic, going up against Dark Sided here in this series. Fnatic taking the first choice, and it will be Cursed Hollow, gentlemen.
Oh, I hope Darksided put their dancing shoes on. I researched like crazy on Fnatic, their playstyle. Bigger battlegrounds like this, it feels like they took a page out of the L5 book coming in Ballistics last year, coming into BlizzCon, is that Fnatic, I've never seen a team coming into a tournament quite like that since last year, to where they manipulate your rotations. They draft accordingly. We've seen even the Chen drafts. It doesn't matter. Whatever they do, you're going to have to respond. I wonder if Darksided has done the research to try and come up with an answer to that, because Fnatic is really good on the Cursed and Sky Temple style maps.
What thoughts?
I mean, yeah, Fnatic is absolutely on a tear, and I do feel like that is going to be something that is probably too much to bear here for Darksided.
All right, let's get into it. Game number 1 of day 2 here for the HGC group stage finals for 2017. Fnatic goes up against Darksided, Europe against Australia.
And I would still expect that both of the teams take it kind of slow at this point. Dark Sided, in particular, has told us that they feel they won't be able to get past the European team. So what they are going to do most likely is try to draft a very standard composition without showing too many of their strategies, since they want to keep them for the next 2 games that they expect to have to play. Whereas Fnatic, of course, doesn't want to show anything to the contenders that are currently looking at these matches with Anaheim and the BlizzCon days in mind. So both of the teams are probably going to rely very heavily on standard for the first few games.
I was able to sit down with Demise a little bit before today's games, and he very much seemed to have that kind of mentality that they're just going to, stick to what they know, and they've thought out the entire strategies for every single series that they expect to play today. So I do assume the exact same thing. ANZ here sticking to what they know. Sadly, though, that does not involve the double support meta. They were very open to saying that is a bit of a struggle that they might be able to move into, and so that does scare me here for the success that they're going to have for ANZ and representing that, because they want to prove that they're the best ANZ roster that has ever been, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's been such a long while since the name Nomia has not been presented for them.
And that's really important to iterate that goal whilst we get these lock-ins in. We'll talk about those in a moment. That's what they came in saying to us. We want to do better than Nomia ever did on an international stage.
And I want to point something else out as well. We talk about both of the teams very likely sticking to the standard here, but that does make in no means what they are drafting bad. If you have seen Fnatic with their comfort picks, you know how scary that can be. It just means that the teams are not going to show their hidden strategies that they particularly prepared to face off against the toughest opponents that exist in this tournament.
The big standout, obviously, we talked, Murden's going to have high priority in this tournament. We see him coming out right away. Generally, Fnatic likes to favor the early support, the early Vala in particular on here, depending on their style, or the Greymane as the fallback. So I wonder, will Fnatic continue with the trend? It's just a very standard go Q build, rotate, force rotations, get bosses, things like that, just control the battleground with that style. So we could still very well see that. They like the Morales in that situation. We've seen some very interesting styles, but I gotta imagine Fnatic's just gonna keep it standard, keep it simple. Even if they show something like that, it's already been seen before for months.
I mean, with the draft that we see already, you can tell that Dark Sided is the ones that are currently drafting a more aggressive composition. Material, of course, shines on Cursed Hollow thanks to Holy Ground and Sanctification fights around tributes and bosses in particular. But with Greymane in the mix, you can really tell, okay, they want to force the agenda here. They want to go in and fight. Fnatic, as you said, they have Murden here, but they have now also the Global, and that is something where Fnatic overall excels, manipulating the map and just focusing on the macro game if they feel that it gives them the better edge.
I will say that I do like the fact that Dark Sided is comfortable moving into the Tyrael Greymane. Obviously, it's not a new synergy, it's not something that we haven't seen, but if they are not comfortable transitioning into that double support-esque, I feel like this is the greatest response, because not only is it effective to be able to deal with it, but Tyrael is one of the few that can provide enough within his role that is not a true support to actually at least hold its own and make it not seem nearly as drastic and difficult to be successful in fights.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I actually think another reason why I like it is they show that they are okay being aggressive here, and I think against Fnatic, coming from their perspective, that makes sense, since of course Fnatic excels in teams fight and they do well, but it's very difficult to find a weakness on the side of Fnatic that you can exploit, and I don't think it's the macro game of the Swedes. So Dark Sided going in and saying we try to fight, I think that's something that is absolutely respectable.
If you look back at the series, as we've got Li Ming and Karazim, obviously I think is going to have a little bit higher priority. Li Ming, Shrumpy most likely on that backside. But if you, to what you just said, if you actually go back to a series that Fnatic had against Expert, there were some really close fights, and it's just like, all right, what if we stop worrying about the macro? They actually had a very similar composition with an Abathur style, and they took some very demanding team fights and forced it onto Fnatic, and actually had a couple of really good moments where they were in control. So I really agree with your point that, in the sense that you're not going to out-macro them, so what if you just kind of take the fight to them?
It looks like Fnatic is taking a bit of what we've seen out of the Korean teams, strategy-wise being more frequent there. I mean, again, it's not only that region that does it, but it's predominantly there, specifically concentrating on having that Karazim, Li Ming, and Murden together. It provides a lot of ganking opportunities in the early game. The damage potential of Karazim following up on a Murden Stormbolt is actually ridiculous. One orb is typically enough to secure yourself a reset. The Dark Side is still sticking with the offensive teamfight focus. I really am glad to see them
and
continue down that road.
We just talked about them.
They baited us!
Yeah, exactly. They baited us. They said a lot that they don't really want to play too much double support in the first game. They come out swinging here directly.
Triple support.
I want to come back to something that you just said, by the way. Karazim. I think Karazim is going to be one of the heroes that we're going to see a lot more in this tournament that we have in the last phase. teams currently are focusing with their supports and the double supports very, very much, especially on the high level when we were talking about Europe and Korea, for example, China as well. A lot of mobility, Brightwing, Kerosene, we see those a lot, trying to have a lot of mobility, a lot of dive potential. So especially as we go towards the days in Anaheim, I think this is going to be a very dominant rotation.
Yeah, I really like Dark Sided's draft here. Going against the opposition, it actually forces Fnatic to respond with their pick as opposed to getting what they want here in the last. They still could comfortably get what they want. But Dark Sided has now forced that onto Fnatic. Like, look, we have a pretty demanding draft on our side where we're going to force it at you. So what's going to be your response? Quacknick's False Dead.
I mean, coming crazy, but if you look at Dark Sided's draft right now, you could actually push that into any Korean team and you would be like, yeah, that's something that I can see Ballistics play. That's something that I can see MVP Black play. When we talk Eastern Clash, Rich straight up said, why does Europe pick Dehaka? I don't get it. Illidan is so much better. Yeah. So this is exactly what we have now from the ANZ team.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you took the names away, very interesting draft to say the least.
Yeah, extremely so. Like, to the point where I'm like, I'm really enjoying, again, the forcing of the hand of that last pick so much that I'm like, Darksided's got a chance here. And in my head, I'm like, guys, you trained for this moment, Dread. Stick to what you know. You studied it up. Fnatic's going to win this. But I'm like,
The one thing that Fnatic will have when we talk about the macro game is double global. Illidan won't get his until level 10. And that's not even a guarantee since we saw the nerf to Hunt. If they're really truly expecting to hit that huge dive in a team fight, there's an outside chance we see Metamorphosis. I doubt it because they'll probably need to match some of the global pressure. But the double global, it's on Fnatic to make that work. I think that they can. Early team fights, I think, heavily favor Darksided. So the early game, I want to see what they do with it.
There's a really cool situation with the composition, that I want to bring up really fast. That if Darksided can sense of how effective the composition for ganking Fnatic is focused on with the double global, gank-centric. The Trinity that I was talking about before, gank-centric. If they can bait, if they can feign weakness in specific aspects, I actually think Fnatic could even kind of be overly confident, make a misplay, and really get caught out.
I'm not sure they actually have to feign anything. This is a problem that Fnatic might run into anyways, that they are now saying, hey, we play against ANZ, and if all of a sudden they don't take that seriously, they might just be showing that overconfidence that you are talking about, and that's something that Darksided can definitely exploit. So it's on the Swedes now to say, hey, we have to take this very serious, we need to take this patiently and not make any mistakes. Let's stick to what we do, and let's keep the discipline up.
Well, make sure HGC Universe, you can vote for who you think is going to be victorious as well over on Twitter with the hashtag for either of the teams that's going to be playing. Make sure to @Heroes Esports as well as use the hashtag HGC as well to get that going. And I want some real talk here to start things off. Some proper real talk. A lot of people think Fnatic's just going to breeze through this series, but looking at the draft, what % do you give Darksided? Real talk.
Much higher than I would have anticipated at the start of the day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's terribly high, but I'll say 20 to 30, somewhere in that range.
Anyone else?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
If they gain some momentum here, if at some point, again, Fnatic gets too overly confident, then they have a chance. But overall, I would still say that the Swedes are not going to lose control of the game.
I think mine would be kind of in the same realm if we were to put a number. The only thing that makes me feel that way is because I felt like Darksided didn't do an effective job of forcing their hand, and this comp is demanding that.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Now time to head over to our first commentary team of the day here for day number 2 of the HGC Finals. It's Skimmy and Gillyweed. Take it away.
That's right, Kalaris. Gillyweed here with Kiwi Dreadnought. How's it going, my friend?
I'm feeling fantastic. NA Vandy, how are you?
Pretty good. Pretty excited to get this going. Darksided versus Fnatic. Darksided have a lot to prove here. They came in, they finally were able to take out Nomia. How long was it that they were trying to bring down the Kings of ANZ?
I mean, that throne has been kind of dusty for a long time, right? I mean, Nomia, in all the different iterations, back to Negative Synergy, even Reborn, they have been hot on their helm, saying, look, nobody can challenge us. Darksided are the underdogs. They're coming in fresh. They've baited us with this draft, with the double support. After so much discussion about we only play one support, we go aggression, and we just want to go those kills.
Yeah, it does seem weird. People were talking about the baiting of that. Do you feel like it was a baiting, or do you feel like it was something has changed for the members of Darksided in the draft day?
I really have to wonder, right, because like even looking at their scrims going into this, we saw a lot of them playing single support, a lot of adaptations, even the mentality of these players, like, hang on a minute, I actually want to win some games. I'm not here just for the free ticket. I actually really want to prove that we can do better than what Nomi have done in the past. So to see that adaptation at the last second, pretty exciting.
Well, here is their moment to do just that. Let's get into the game. Darksided takes on Fnatic. And here they are in the blue, your mid-season Brawl champions, Fnatic, with Quacknix playing Falstad. A lot of global play coming out from Fnatic today. Schwimpy on an old favorite, Li Ming. We've got Wubby playing his Dahaka. After that, Smexy will be back on Karazim. And finally, Breeze leading the charge on Muradin.
And on the right-hand side, rocking those red shorts all the way down under from ANZ. You have Dark Sided, the new kings of that realm, and we have Demise flexing on that Ufa for that double support composition. Hacky this time on the grey main, Moops on his trusted Rhaegar, sashing with Illidan and Robodoba rocking the Tyrael.
Now, knowing this team, knowing Dark Sided, knowing the heroes that they're playing, do you think people should be keeping their eyes on?
100%. I mean, you have to be looking at Session, or even just Robodoba. Robodoba is a player that has been to every single international tournament that ANZ has offered to them. This guy just does not lose championships, so definitely keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, Robodoba, to me, has been such an awesome player. When Dark-Sided came in with this new lineup for them, it seemed like they did have some anti-synergy problems, but whenever it did have someone that would bring things back together, it seemed to be off of Robodoba and the kind of experience that he's bringing in. They're going to need that experience here since they are up against an opponent with such caliber like Fnatic. But we've got some side laning going on. Wubby's going to come down with the brush stock to try to stop Dark-Sided from getting too much structural damage though.
And the coolest thing I've already seen here, Gilly, from level 1 is that Battered Assault has been picked up as that level 1 talent as opposed to the Immolation over that we typically see, which gives you that wave clear, but Battered Assault is all about the punching on potential. You hit at least 2 members with that sweeping strike, you are going to be doing a lot of damage, and this is true to Session's name. He is Korean, he loves to play aggressive, and that team folds all around the ideal.
Yeah, especially with the composition that we've drafted. We know that protect the Grey main style of composition, there's that 2 heavy supports to protect. It's almost like one of the damage dealers each gets the kind of support that they want. You've got the Divine Shield for a Grey main probably, and then the Ancestral Healing for an Illidan. But as we look at this, we know that Fnatic, they have kind of perfected this idea of like feigning aggression and stopping teams from doing things that they would want to do. They did it a lot in their region, almost like we are the mid-season Brawl champions now, and if we can get you to be scared of us and our caliber of play, then we might be able to push them back. Is Dark-Sided the kind of team, as they lose Demise at First Blood, is Dark-Sided the kind of team that will fold underneath that kind of pressure?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you were to take the 2 team names away, it kind of feels a bit like Nomia up against Dark-Sided. Dark-Sided are typically that team that run pure aggression, as we said, the single support. All about finding those kills, getting those fights going, and just looking for that pure aggression to try and almost intimidate your opposition. Nomia, typically speaking, all about the macro game, all about the global rotations. You can see none other than Fnatic. They love to harness that potential. Coming to a map like Hearthstone, really promoting it. Very similar for Nomia as well. So I feel like Dark-Sided, if they were to sort of not get too into their heads and overthink this, they have a shot of saying, we can force those fights. Let's not get too scared about the potential that this is a world champion.
Yeah, Jaeha mentioned that Fnatic really like to manipulate the rotations of teams, and Cursed Hollow, I saw them do that phenomenally versus Team Dignitas. Doing things like getting camps off of the normal timings, just trying to see if they can force some members to defend in a place that's not ideal and get some extra structural damage done. But let's see how this first tribute phase goes.
That we will, as 5 members of Dark Sided have fully collapsed to this top lane, committing towards that tribute. Wubby is still in the bottom lane, soaking, utilizing that global pressure. They did pick up the Giants in the bot lane for Dark Sided, so they're going to try and even things out, keep Wubby locked down there for as long as possible. But a slight lead, as slight as it might be, has been acquired so far by Fnatic as they put up a good contest. Yeah,
now it's all about how long it takes for Dark Sided to pick up this tribute, knowing that they have committed so many members here, or before they start rotating people back down. Sashin's getting aggressive. Robodoba dives in along with him. Dodges the Stormbolt just barely, so he will stay alive. Moves going forward, getting aggressive, trying to buy space for Hacky. They don't quite get the tribute just yet.
Not just yet, as Breeze coming in once again looking at this, but Li Ming does fall to the floor as Darksided say, you want a bit of this? I will give you it. As now they chase on towards Breeze as well, and just like that, I say the mentality is there, the confidence is booming as they say 2 kills. It's far too easy for us from ANZ.
Oh yeah, and Dark-Sided get the tribute, get 2 kills to the 1 of Fnatic. I can already imagine up on the stage, Dark-Sided getting pretty hyped that they were able to get those 2 kills. They are a team that likes to do that after all.
I mean, they're a very emotional team. If you did tune into our regionals, you could hear the emotion, the raw emotion spinning from the auditorium itself. These guys will get excited, and rightfully so. They're a very emotional team that have almost a bit like some of the NA teams. If they're on that rise, they will run with the wind, and if they're down, you know, it can seem a little bit lackluster. But I have to commend them for what they did there. Darkseid, that they needed to get that tribute, otherwise Wubby would have found infinite value in that bottom lane.
Because of that global, they even had Falstad, though Falstad was committed up in the top with the tribute. And and they got it fairly quickly, and getting those kills has helped them keep up in experience with Wubby. Now we have the next tribute going to be spawning in 13 seconds. Fnatic are working on getting their bruiser camped, but Dark Sided already were able to rotate around it and get theirs too, so that is something that Muradin is dealing with, and the tribute spawning place does slightly favor Dark Sided here.
Wouldn't be too unopposed here if this Fnatic just try and play the complete macro game. We've seen it time and time again where, you know, you push these lanes out and Dark Sided are hungry for that 5-man death ball of finding those kills, finding those fights. If they can't find it, they start to sort of fall off to a degree, right? And these XP gaps, a team like Fnatic will run with the wind. They won't let this fall anytime soon.
Excellent job by Breeze to anchor in the bush, knowing that Dark Sided would want to rotate someone up and get a kill on Falstad. Practice down, watching to see when Sashin and Demise will get there. With Sashin and Demise, it's likely that they could have done a lot of damage to Fnatic, but now Fnatic using that manipulation, knowing that Dark Sided were going to come in, instead set the perfect trap, and they'll take out Uther.
That's just the power of Muradin at level 7 right there. Dwarven Impact really starting everything off. The rest of the boys flooding on in. They can collapse on towards that kill, and Uther falls to the floor. Demise, to say, typically not a support player, so positioning potentially a non-factor there, but like that, you know, suddenly this lead has been built up quite significantly, suddenly a 1-level lead.
Yeah, and Fnatic able to see this far ahead in the game, recognizing that it's okay that they're down those 2 tributes because they get this far ahead. It is on Darkside to try to make something happen. Wubby throws out the drag just to make sure that he can get back to the base. We'll be fine, but the collapse is coming in.
The difference there, they try and even out what was happening in the top lane for Fnatic by responding in the bottom lane, but they have no hard CC. There are slows, there are gap closes, but it's not enough to lock Wubby in place. He says, thank you very much for baiting out those resources. We're going to retain this lead. We hit 10. It spawns quite perfectly for this tribute as well. If we grab this, potentially we can go for boss as well.
Yeah, it's very close to that boss position, and Uther blown up in an instant from Fnatic means that is quite an amount of time without one of the supports for Darksided. I wanted to point out while we have a second that Breeze's Muradin took Reverberation. This isn't the standard. Generally, we would see Thunderburn, but having Reverberation here to have the extra attack speed slow is going to be so good versus Darksided and the kind of damage that they're coming out. Not only that, Illidan's gone down. Whoa, Wave of Force pulling in for a second kill. Fnatic are on fire.
Fnatic, they're just really showing their expertise on these heroes right there, the calculation of those skills, and as a result they can really punish them. Yes, you still have those ultimates, you don't even need to go for the boss in the top lane. We just steal your one away, and this is where a map like Curse Hollow kind of gets scary. It can snowball really out of control. You go for the top one, you go for the bottom one, you're constantly playing ring around the rosy of where do we go and how do we actually force that fight.
And Wubby is drawing a lot of the resources from Darksided, but knowing, waiting to see where the crowd control, you had talked about that, limited amount of hard CC for Darksided. He gets out A-OK and spends a lot of time drawing resources of Darksided to make sure that Fnatic could get that boss. So we've got boss and giants in the top lane, and this is all about the manipulation that Jay Howe referenced now. They're able to just completely control the battleground. They know where people are going to be, and they can utilize that to either get ganks on the people defending or to take some sort of objective elsewhere.
And let's talk about boss control for the fact that you have the Gust on the left side for Fnatic, you've got Sanctification for Darksided, so it's really going to come down to that bait and switch as to who uses which one first. A very calculated game of chess, so to speak, is now Darksided on Curse Point. If they can go for this one right here, yes, they can't grab the boss afterwards, but they will have the pressure to run with the wind, as that boss is still pushing top lane. It's already exposed that keep for that win condition.
Can Fnatic stall this out? It looks like no, but because of the boss in the top, all of the pressure that's been sustained there, and Fnatic getting this bottom lane boss as Smexy gets pretty close to going down, they'll still be able to get this. This is going to negate a lot of what Darksided could do with this boss. That and the talent tier advantage that Fnatic has almost amassed. This really was the best case scenario for Fnatic to eat a curse so that they can have complete control for the rest of the game.
See Wubby now in the top lane going for that 1v1. Sashing going to do whatever he can really, I suppose, with the hunt to try and match that macro style of this sort of global that really Fnatic are abusing and really running with the wind in terms of like a 2-level lead at this stage. You've got the curse, but you actually can't do too much with it. Yes, bot lane's pushing against you. Fnatic bringing the fight towards you, looking for that pick on towards Haki. He does have moops and support and he can back away, but yeah, the curse feels very much null and void, and this is playing right into Fnatic's hands.
No, I'm really interested to see the Divine Storm for Uther. Drag will be the end of Illidan. But to see a Divine Storm here, but maybe just feeling like they needed more of the lockdown that has been remiss for them so far in this game. Having that, they do still have Sanctification and Ancestral Healing as good supporting tools for those two aggressive damage dealers of Illidan and Greymane. Now the curse is over, the damage has been done, not even a fort lost for Fnatic, and that was Darksided's curse.
I mean, it was a bit of a rough situation right now. Fnatic are banging on the door of a second keep in the bottom lane. The Gust is going to come across to the Hunters, floods on through, but Session says, I cannot contest with this one. The team were gusted away. There was no chance for him to follow things up, so he is forced to back away in that situation. A 3-level lead. It's almost like a case of slow, methodical macro play where Dark Sided will get a stage in this game where they'll just get frustrated and they will dive at any opportunity that's presented to themselves.
And that's what the Gust is for. Even Wave of Force having those kinds of disengage abilities, and then having the slow of Muradin there too. They have a lot of tools of being able to get out of that. Hopefully for Dark-Sided, when they do choose to go for that kind of engagement, when you see Eldrin go in aggressively and everyone dive forward, maybe that is the Divine Storm that will keep Fnatic in place long enough that Dark-Sided can actually get something out of those fights.
I mean, right now, if I'm looking at the situation for Dark-Sided, how do they claw themselves back into this one? It's looking like, first of all, let's get to an even talent tier. Look at a bit of a rough order for them so far, because by the time they hit 13, Fnatic have already hit their second talent tier of 16, which is one of the biggest power spikes in the game. So it puts you in a situation of, how do we do this? Do we try and capitalize on a mistake? But a team like Fnatic, very hard to punish a mistake if it's never actually given towards you.
Yeah, and this is a big problem that we hear from a lot of the teams from these non-league regions. You have a lot of teams that are just focused on aggression all the time, and you never really get punished for macro-type plays. And Fnatic is one of the best at the macro game, and so it's not until you get to these international events we really feel the pressure of that and understand what a team can do. Talk about what a team can do though. Breeze diving on top of Dark-Sided.
And he does, jumps in with a 3-man stun, but no team to follow things up, where you can see the aggression he wants to punch on, but the team aren't there just yet, but they've got the Night Camper, got a minion wave pushing through mid as well. It's looking like they collapse. Illidan's still on the top lane. It's going to be 4v5. Wooby is side-soaking as well, so a 4v4 skirmish. This fault should drop on down. You can imagine Dark-Sided wanting to try and force something, but it's not going to be the range for Illidan to jump in just yet.
Yeah, 16 to 13 is a scary place, but Dark-Sided are running out of options. This may just be the best place for them to try to get into those fights. Rob moving forward, keeping eyes on Fnatic, seeing if there is a weakness, a weak point somewhere to abuse. The zoning from Fnatic is excellent as they are attempting to channel this tribute.
I mean, the reverberation, we go back to your point you made earlier there, going to do so much, considering that Session has gone for this build of Battered Assault, looking to try and be that hard carry to, I suppose, run alongside the diving potential of the Tyrael, of the Rhaegar for some degree, as well as Greymane. And if they're all slowed on down, they're also heavily reliant on that. Not much can happen. The stun comes out, the cleanse is better, but the damage just pops him. He can't do anything about that. Ancestral just too little, too late. Robodoba, no chance for the sanctification. Koza got interrupted by the wave of force, and just like that, one by one, they fall like dominoes. 2 down so far, but a triple kill is easy as 4 fall to the floor.
And Breeze will jump on top for another kill on Rhaegar, and that is 4 people down from Dark-Sided. Long enough for Fnatic, even without a curse yet, to push in and try to take down the first keep of the game. It's a 4-level lead. This is Fnatic being Fnatic.
I mean, that was the scrappy fight that I said was going to happen eventually, because I say the game is slowly starting to bleed out, where you've got a keep available in the top lane, a keep available in the bottom lane. When do you fight? I mean, it gets to the stage where we hit 16, they're going to be 20. Hunt comes across, however, and Tahaka gets aggressive with going for the throat as Haki is looking to hack and slash his way into some kind of victory.
Rob still does have Sanctification. If he can get the team there, drops the spine to give them the movement speed so they can try to catch up. But the Gust is just now offline now, so if things really got worse, if push came to shove, still had Gust as a way of disengaging from that. So Fnatic will walk away licking their wounds. They did lose their Tahaka, but they've taken out a keep, which means they've opened up a way for them to get to core should they be able to get another decisive teamfight victory.
Gust is available right now as Session jumps on in, followed up by Robot over there. Gust is such a big pick here, really, against the likes of Dark-Sided. Wasn't available during the matchup between Nem and Nomi, and a lot of people argue that might have been the breaking point as to why Nomi didn't quite make it, but on the day, obviously, you've got to have other strategies prepared. And now we see another opportunity for Fnatic to go for that boss. They're on curse point themselves. They're not going to go for this when they say we want that macro push in the bot lane. This actually adds a win condition with the keep being gone. If they go for that decisive team fight, the core's in sight.
So we've seen Fnatic be able to run away from Dark-Sided a lot, even without the Mighty Gust, but things might change if Dark-Sided can get to 16. They're going to have Benediction for Uther, which means even more stuns besides the Divine Storm. He can stun lock for a long time, and Holy Ground will be a lot better for Tyrael. Maybe even just enough to force the Gust, so then they know that that's out. Then the Hunt can come in from Sasha, and then turn things around. Finally get a break in these fights.
Looks like Fnatic got their eyes on the prize in this bottom lane right now. They pick up the Giants, they've got the boss already. Wobby's going to commit with that Brush Stalker. They're going for that team fight, and why would you not? These team fights so far have been very commanding in their side. They realize that there's a small window before 16's being picked up, and as you say, such a big power spike for them. The hunt comes across, the guns instantly response. As Session gets a low, he's going to fall on floor, but no, the Session comes across at the very last second. They're jumping on in. Waiting for that certification, it does come across there, but actually
Excellent.
1 kill is looking like it's there. No, it's not. Shrimpy surviving by the skin of his teeth, but Fausta does fall to the floor.
Incredible ignore of the palm, but now Sash is falling apart as he goes back in once more for Shrimpy. Shrimpy getting health back from the dominance, but Dahaka is down. Darksided are still in this. They've lost 2, but they've taken out 2 as well. They have to win this. Everything is on the core, but all Fnatic wanted to do was pull Darksided away. They baited them into the fight, and Fnatic, this whole time, the core ticked down. Fnatic will win game 1.
That was the do or die situation. The boss, the Giants, they were all on the core. They forced that fight. They had to, and it looked promising for a second right there, but Shrimpy getting away on the skin of his teeth, that could have been a deciding factor. And on the day, Fnatic show you why they are one of the best.
Yeah, all it was a clever ploy to get the boss unscathed onto the core of Darksided. They let it do their dirty work while they got to have a bit of fun in a team fight.
I mean, they want that fight. I suppose now you can say they've assessed where Fnatic are at. I even said to them off air, you know, play this game, play it how you usually do back home. Learn from what you can from these replays. Your real game is going to be up against BTG and Team Freedom.
Yes.
And I mean, against an opponent like Fnatic, there are things to learn and there are things that you can take away from this.
And now at least they will have potentially the battleground choice if they want that. So maybe that's something that they will use to not go to such a macro-intensive map. But let's check back in with the Analyst desk and see what they thought of game 1.
That's right, a bit of savagery coming in from Fnatic in that game at number 1, going up against Dark Sided, and unfortunately for Dark Sided, really didn't play out in their favor at all.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work out, but ultimately I feel like it was expected. At the same time, generally it just got to a point where it felt like Fnatic was like, time to show why we're one of the best teams in the world, and we're ready to win the game.
I mean, one of the crucial points for me personally was when they just simply let them get the curse. They were already at boss, the lanes were pushed out, and they realized, if we just give them the tribute, what are they actually going to get out of it? And then the curse hits Fnatic. Fnatic didn't even lose experience during that time. They gained experience over their opponent, and there was not even a single fort taken down. So they isolated that moment. They realized, hey, if we just take that boss, let them get the curse, they just waste 3 tributes more or less, and we gain even more map control.
I did feel like there was a couple of cool moments that I want to highlight, specifically just around the Trinity that I was kind of talking about before.
Right.
We got to see how effective that can be at just absolutely destroying and one-shot a hero. And then also I just want to shout out the lead main play up on top where Shrimpy ended up getting the dive. The wave of force right into the orb. I was like, that was dirty.
And you talked about this when we were talking about the draft. I mean, we probably could have gone on it at length, but it was really on Darksided to try and be aggressive early. Post level 7, the dwarf toss mid lane, it's like primary target. It's like, hey, by the way, like I can stun you when I jump on you. Li Ming's like, well, that's free because it's now stationary and blow up. And at post level 7, you've got the Calamity, you've got the heavy impact, you've got things like that. That I think really just from that moment on, after that early Uther gank top, and then after level 7, it was just full steam ahead.
Kalaris and I talked about something as well. We kind of felt that for Darksided, it was one of those things where if they play in their region, they're, for example, not used to Fnatic specifically looking to interrupt Tyrael when he tries to go for the Sanctification. And when that misses, when you rely on Illidan and Greymane, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I will say that, especially out of the Eastern world, I've been very, very impressed. Some of the Korean teams' focus to be able to interrupt the Tyrael because it's still very, very prevalent within their meta. It's just showing, you know, kind of why Tyrael is such a hit-or-miss hero, depending on the meta, ultimately. I feel like regionally, he just is so hit-or-miss.
It's a very execution-heavy play that we tried to see there from Darkseid, which unfortunately for them went amiss indeed. For now, though, we're going to go to Game 2 in just a few moments' time, but first, a word from our sponsors.